Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we appreciate everybody being here. And to my sign language individuals, young ladies, thank you very, very much for being here. We deeply appreciate that. Let me go right into the COVID update. And again, I want to thank Dr. Mark Kerouac, the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, who is here every week, as too with Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer of Mercy Hospital, Trinity Healthcare. And after my update, we'll bring these two gentlemen up as usual again to give their updates, and so they can get back to their important duties at their respective medical institutions. They will take questions from the media ASAP, and then we'll go back into my cabinet head's update. So this is a first. This weekend total was under, for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, was under double digits of new cases COVID-19. 4 Friday, 1 Saturday, 3 Sunday, for a total of 2,973. So this is the first weekend, probably going back to when this all started well over 6 months ago, that under double digits of new cases were registered over the weekend. That's absolutely fantastic, and a testament to my cabinet heads, down to rank and file, to the residents and business community, and to our medical institutions who are working hand in hand with us. But we have to stay ever vigilant and keep following the script. Keep doing what you're doing, because it is working. Unfortunately, we did have one more death that affected our Springfield community, our Springfield family, which brings us to a total of 131 total COVID-19 deaths. And again, from myself and my cabinet heads down the rank and file, our deepest sympathy and thoughts and prayers and encouragement to those families that have been affected. The breakdown is for white would be 57, which is 43%. Black is 31, which is 23.7%. Hispanic is 41, which is 31.3%. Asian holds at 2 at 1.5%. Long-term care, this was 57, which is 43.5%. The death that occurred was residential, which moves up to 74, which is 56.57%. We continue to deliver our meals to seniors who are in need, and we're well over 1,700 on that. I want to thank Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris, and I want to thank Superintendent Warwick. Governor Baker stopped the spread, and again, thank you to Governor Baker, Lieutenant Governor Polito. Helen and I have been putting across, as has Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos, we want more and more testing, so stop the spread. The sites continue. My old junior high, which is Kylie Middle School, was last Wednesday. The Ray Jordan Senior Center was this Friday, and Helen will give updates on that. Sci-Tech is this Wednesday. Sci-Tech, Science and Technology High School is this Wednesday, August 26th, 3 to 6 p.m. And now the testing here is key. It's asymptomatic testing, which we wanted. Brookings School, the new Brookings School, that's Friday, August 28th, 3 to 6 p.m. The Claudio Concepcion Greenleaf Community Center will be next Wednesday, September 2nd, 3 to 6 p.m. Central High School will be next Friday, September 4th, 3 to 6 p.m. Again, I urge you all to please fill out your census. It is painless, very, very limited information, very basic information. But if you don't get counted. In turn, we don't get counted in Springfield for millions and millions of dollars of federal funding that comes through HUD and CDBG. Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan can expound on that, and plus we don't want to lose any type of congressional representation. So please, fill out your census. Early voting. I was down here Saturday, late morning, early afternoon. City Hall, we had a very strong crowd and lines out to the horseshoe, and that went very well. That continues on not only for City Hall, but for Greenleaf, the Claudio Concepcion Center. And again, basically it's 8:30 to 5 p.m. At City Hall. Wednesday, August 26th, will go 8:30 to 7 p.m. And Thursday, August 27th, will go 8:30 to 7 p.m. at City Hall. And Friday, the last day you could vote early, will be 8:30 to 4 p.m. at City Hall. At the Claudio Concepcion Greenleaf Community Center, today it's 10 to 5 p.m. Tomorrow it's 10 to 5 p.m. Wednesday, the 26th, is 11 to 6 p.m. And Thursday, the last day you could vote there, will be 11 to 6 p.m. And again, I want to thank my election commissioner, Gladys Oyola, and her team. They've been doing yeoman work on it, and I really appreciate their efforts very much so. The city libraries, which Helen Carlton-Harris is she has a number of departments under her as a cabinet head, but Molly Fogarty indicates to me that over 2,500 curbside appointments have been done since we reopened for outside appointments. 15,000 items have been loaned out, which is very, very good. Neighborhood aspects, from the north end to Indian Orchard. It was down the north end for years and years and years. They talked about safe passage when the north end was split up many years ago to stop people from crossing the dangerous railroad tracks. We're finally working with MassDOT. We've accomplished that, and I want to thank Director Chris Signoli. The tunnel has gone in, and soon that will be opening to coincide with the Brightwood Lincoln New School, $80 million, $90 million new school built on Plainfield Street. This will have the the north end residents have safe passage underneath those tracks to get back and forth through the north end area and not have to put their lives on a line trying to cross the railroad tracks. So appreciate that. And in the Orchard, little things mean a lot, and I want to thank the Indian Orchard Citizens Council, Paul Karen, who's a retired state rep from that area, and Zeta Govin, the Orchard in Bloom, the hanging flower pots, which look fantastic, not only in the Orchard area, but they come from Pasco Road all the way to Boston Road and into the Orchard Main Street area, and they absolutely fantastic. They're well kept, and it's just a very welcoming. So many of us donated to that campaign, and to the business community stepped up, from Rick's Auto Body to Eastman. Eastman just gave us 5,000 cloth masks too, so it just was wonderful there. Let me go to the police update. Commissioner Clapprood, there is nobody out in COVID, which is very, very good. We had a terrible incident that occurred, very disrespectful and disheartening and saddened. The Beauregard's Scavina Memorial Park was defaced with terrible acronyms being put there, ACAB, which indicates all cops are bastards, and FTP, which means F the police. And it was hurtful, it was disrespectful, as I've done with other defacements, whether it's the Italian-American War Veterans Monument or the Black Vietnam Veterans War Monument in Mason Square. Pat Sullivan and crew will get that cleaned up ASAP. But it just comes at a very crucial time. You know, we're all working so hard to unite and work together and better understand and mutual respect, and then we have an individual and/or individuals that want to divide us. So absolutely terrible. These officers, Elaine Beauregard and Michael Scavina, made the ultimate sacrifice. And again, I can't say what I want to say. We're on camera, but we're going to continue to move forward in unity. And shame on those individuals, and we will continue to investigate who the perpetrators are, and due diligence will be done at that point in time. Police had a busy weekend. We continue with our dirt bike patrols, ATVs. A number were confiscated. A number of arrests were made. Drag racing, a number of arrests were made, 12 arrests down the north end. This sense of lawlessness is not going to be tolerated, and we're going to continue to work hard to stop it, and we hope our courts will be behind us on it. That's what the residents of all creed colors and backgrounds demand. And even with the Beauregard Scavina Park, that park was put together, and it brings together families of all creed colors and backgrounds that come together as one. So we're going to continue our crackdown on dirt bikes and ATVs. One of our officers were hurt. Domestic calls are very dangerous, and one of our officers were hurt. 7, Kevin Ambrose, God rest his soul, and Commissioner Clapper, I hope that officer is recovering, but arrests were made at that point in time to stop a domestic from a young lady being injured on that. We are also busy weekend. Commissioner will go into, I think there was over 400 calls Friday 4 to 12 shift and 300 on the Saturday shift on that. Commissioner Calvi and the fire department, COVID, one is down. They had a busy weekend, and it was very, very hot and humid. They had to put out fires not too far away from me on White Street, Prince Street, and Six Corners, and then they had to put out a stubborn fire at the old Red Lion Cafe at the bottom of Locust Street and Dickinson Street. Schools are a hot topic. Superintendent Dan Warwick will be giving you an update on that, and professional development started today remotely with all our teachers and administrators and staff. Meals, we are now have served 2,419,080 meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Over 87,000 went out this weekend. I think Dan and Commissioner Helen Calton-Harris will speak to you about the edict about flu shots for our students, and also the Oasis Food Bank, John Foley, that continues. 3,500 families we are servicing on Fridays at Central High School with a complete array of foods, from vegetables to meats to milk, and we appreciate the collaboration there with Sedesco and other entities, the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. Superintendent Warwick, Helen Calton-Harris, and Pat Sullivan will clarify for you. We sort of got 11th hour curveball late Friday from DESE, Mr. Riley, that seemed to be ordering teachers back to the classroom after we've already put across our plan and have an industrial hygienist reviewing all our buildings and make sure that they're safe and sound. And also our goal, like everyone else, is to get our teachers and students back in the classroom as soon as it is safe and healthy with public health, medicine, and science. We are sticking to the plan we have, the transition plan, and we will open up remote. But again, Superintendent Warwick, Commissioner Calton-Harris, and Pat Sullivan will go over that. I'm proud to say we continue to partner with Superintendent Warwick. He informed me today that we're moving forward on the more laptops and iPads for pre-K from our city money, and that's important. DPW, Chris Signoli, Director Signoli, indicates to me that COVID-19, he is down 2. Yard waste pickups continue. They might be a little bit behind, but they continue because we wanted to make sure after the storm. Facilities and management, Pat Sullivan. Storm cleanup should be completed all this week. The Sear Arena, for all you hockey aficionados, will be opening following, Pat can get into that, following the COVID-19 type restrictions for hockey practice. Pat is also spearheading with Bob Kirshner, the industrial hygienist, continues to review all our school buildings pertaining to the new COVID-19 rules and regulations. On the financial front, my CAFO, TJ Plain, indicates to me we've deficit spent about $8 million. A loss of revenue since then. The beginning of this is $5.4 million in revenue. FY21, fiscal year 21 budget, I'm down about $487,000. Echo Dev, Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan, and I appreciate his efforts. We were able to get a green light clearance from HUD, Housing and Urban Development, for small business, continue to help our small business. That frees up another $1.3 million. And we're going to be a little more specific on we help out these businesses. And he's also leveraging that with Common Capital to see what we can do with deferred loans to help out those businesses. Attorney Bill Mahoney, my HR Labor Director. Again, the travel restrictions continue. And with that, I appreciate your indulgence. And now I'm going to turn it over to our highly respected medical individuals, Dr. Mark Kerouac, the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, and then subsequently Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer of Mercy Hospital, Trinity Healthcare, will come up. After they are done, they will take questions from the media immediately, and then we'll go into my cabinet heads updates. Thank you so much. Without further ado, the President and CEO of Bay State Health Systems, Dr. Mark Kerouac. Thank you.
Morning, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, again for holding these conferences and for the cooperation of everybody on your team. At Bay State Medical Center in Springfield, we're continuing to care for patients with COVID-19 at about the same level as last week. There are today 17 patients at Bay State Medical Center, 2 in intensive care. That's versus 16 last week, so about the same level. We continue our active efforts at testing. We're testing between 800 and 1,000 individuals a day. Like everyone in the country, our testing supplies are strained by the demand and supply, but we've continued to work at it and currently have turnover times of a day or less for a test performed at one of the 6 Bay State testing sites. We also are giving support for some congregate living facilities as well as for some of the other healthcare providers in the Valley. And we're happy to see other organizations getting into the game here. The more the better from my standpoint. There also is some emerging technology of an easier to administer test, the so-called spit test, which would be welcome and might be something that one would consider for broad-based screening. A lot of data still needs to be developed on that in terms of its sensitivity and specificity. Statewide positivity rates continue to decline. They're at about 1.1% based on the last report. The state, as I had mentioned last week, is publishing a weekly report of COVID-19 data by town and city. The last one came out last week on the 19th. It again showed Springfield in the yellow zone, and what it looks at is the average number of new cases on a daily basis, averaged over 14 days, and divided by 100,000 population. So Springfield was still in the yellow zone, which is pretty good for a large city with urban density, et cetera. Longmeadow, Chicopee, and Northampton had transitioned from yellow to green. Holyoke had transitioned from red to yellow, and Granby from red to white. All of those are good trends, meaning less cases. The only red town left in our immediate area is South Hadley, and very much like Granby, that might be a small numbers problem. I would expect that's not going to stay up for long. Overall, there's been good state performance on test positivity rates, hospitalizations, testing capacity, and the effectiveness of contact tracing. As the mayor mentioned, the governor has mandated flu shots for all children as a precondition of going to school or for child care. I realize this is a controversial area with a vigorous number of people who are anti-vaccine, but I wanted to articulate that I'm fully supportive of the measure. I myself have gotten a flu shot each year for the last 40 years, and nearly every healthcare worker I know gets one each year as well. The shot is safe and it's effective. It has the added benefit this year of not causing false alarms. So somebody with a cough and a fever basically would have to stay out and be quarantined while awaiting tests for both the flu and COVID when both of them are in season in a few months. That would waste personal protective equipment, it would waste testing supplies, and it would set back reopening plans. So I believe that was what was behind the governor's decision. Realize that the flu shot is different each year because the flu virus can change a lot from one year to the next. Coronavirus, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19 does not change nearly as much. So the hope is, and the belief is, that the vaccines that are currently being tested and which are expected sometime next year will give protection for many years, unlike the flu shot. Otherwise, on the national scene, I've been watching with some concern as many colleges and universities across the country have scaled back their reopening plans. The problem, of course, has been that they have reasonably good plans, but the enforcement has been a challenge, particularly for off-campus parties where there are gatherings of people that aren't observing masking or social distancing. And so how successful we're going to be in the college reopening situation remains to be seen. Also, this last week, convalescent plasma was back in the news. Remember, this is a treatment in which individuals who have recovered from coronavirus, recovered from COVID, and have antibodies in their blood donate blood. The cells are taken out of the blood, and the fluid left behind is called plasma. It's rich in antibodies. It's given to people, and there have been conflicting studies with regard to its effectiveness. Unfortunately, Dr. Anthony Fauci and President Trump have gotten on different sides of this controversy, and I think it's likely that the drug has some effect on the sickest patients, but we're really not sure how much of an effect it has. And I have to say that as I looked at this story developing, I said, here we go again, very much like the hydroxychloroquine thing, when politics and science get mixed together. It ends up being very confusing to the public, a lot more heat than light, unfortunately. I do feel pretty comfortable that a year from now, we are not going to be talking about convalescent plasma. Instead, we'll probably be talking about synthetically formulated antibodies, so-called monoclonal antibodies that are much more precise and much more effective. Convalescent plasma is a non-standard product because each individual forms a different kind of immune response to the virus, and therefore some variability in effectiveness would be expected. It is a very old-fashioned approach. It used to be used in the 1920s against pneumonia until we got something better, that something being penicillin. And so my expectation is that very soon we'll have something a lot better than convalescent plasma, and we'll start using it. We are using it in selected cases at Bay State Health under the emergency use authorization. A couple of quick updates at Bay State Medical Center. We are doing some construction to expand parking, which will be very popular. We appreciated the mayor's cooperation. This was part of the Van Horn Dam improvement project that allowed us to expand by a couple of hundred slots parking, which has always been tight and been an issue at Bay State Medical Center. So we appreciate that cooperation, Mr. Mayor. Also, it's that time of year where we see a lot of fresh new faces around Bay State Medical Center. We are the Academic Medical Center of Western Massachusetts, a branch of UMass Medical School. We take nursing students from the Elms, STCC, students from Springfield College, AIC, et cetera. And so there are 30 different health professions that train at Bay State, as well as a number of non-professional trainees who do apprenticeships there. It allows us to recruit the best and brightest physicians who want to work in an environment of teaching and research, and it provides a pipeline for people who want to work in an environment of teaching, not to mention good jobs for young kids who are going through the educational process in the city of Springfield. These would include, in another generation, my own mom, who was a graduate of the Springfield Hospital Nursing School. And so it's been a very nice set of programs that we've been overseeing for many years. This year, of course, we're taking great pains to help these young students and trainees deal with the fears and stresses of the pandemic. It is a young age to be dealing with a deadly contagious virus, but we are training them very well to deal with all of the personal protective equipment, et cetera, as well as the stresses and strains that come with the territory. So I'll end as I always do, and that is by stressing the importance of the standard advice that we give around hand washing, mask wearing, and social distancing as really being the key to our defeating this virus. I believe that we're doing very well in the state of Massachusetts. I wish the rest of the country were doing as well, and I hope we can keep up the discipline and the focus so that we can see this thing really kept to a minimum level until we have some definitive treatment like a vaccine. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Kerouac. Thank you, Dr. Kerouac. We'll now bring up Dr. Robert Roos, the Chief Medical Officer of Mercy Hospital Trinity Healthcare. Dr. Robert Roos.
Good morning, everyone. And Mayor, thank you. And I want to commend you and Commissioner Calton-Harris and your entire cabinet. Quite an accomplishment to see the numbers of new infections in Springfield go into the single digits over the course of this past weekend. I also want to thank the media for continuing to be here and report out fact-based information as this continues to evolve week after week. To the viewers and the community, I want to also say, keep doing what you're doing. It's working. Unless, of course, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing. And I'll get to that in just a moment. The masking, the physical distancing, the limitation on our activities and gatherings, the hand hygiene that you're doing is working. And now is not the time to ease up, but it's actually the time to step on the gas. The lower the numbers, the potentially more effective that we can be in isolating any remaining infections and possibly work towards extinguishing this as soon as we can. At Mercy Medical Center, we continue to have very low numbers of hospitalized patients over the last few weeks, with only 2 present today and over the course of most of last week, with 1 in the intensive care unit. We've had a test positivity rate that has mirrored the state average at just a little over 1%, at now having performed about 35,000 tests thus far. And it was mentioned, the data here in Massachusetts continues to trend in the right direction. We've seen the test positivity rate go down now to about 1.1%. We've seen declines in hospitalized patients to 315 as of the latest report, and only 50 patients in intensive care units and 20 on mechanical ventilation throughout the entire state, which is quite a striking difference from where we were in April and May here in the Commonwealth. These are all incredibly good things, but I would push that we should continue to work now to drive the test positivity rate down even lower. Because in the context of widespread testing, it is that statistic that is the best measure of whether or not we have reduced or can eliminate the rate of local community transmission. And it's that journey, and while it may be a very long journey, it's that journey that I've called before the journey to zero COVID. Because as a community, I would say that that really is the goal. As a region, as a state, and as a country, we want to get to the point where we have no, or as close to it as possible, new COVID infections day after day. Quite remarkably, yesterday, according to reports, signified 7 consecutive days where China reported 0 new cases of local community transmission of the coronavirus. While they've recognized there have been some small numbers of cases imported into the country via travel, that's quite striking for the country for where this infection first began. And I believe that we could do that here. We could similarly do that with continued focus on 3 important elements that we've been stressing since the beginning of the pandemic. The first is nearly universal adherence to our recommendations of masking, physical distancing, hand hygiene. The second is widespread, timely, and accurate testing with robust contact tracing and quarantine. And the third is to continue the data-informed recommendations and approach to guiding how we reopen and engage in other activities. The good news is that here in Massachusetts, we know this. We've seen the results of this. Dr. Kerouac has talked about this, as I have, and we've informed efforts on the state level to continue down that path. We have, however, still seen clusters of infections when individuals have not followed those recommendations. And this past week, the weekly report from the Department of Public Health showed that. As Dr. Kerouac mentioned, there was one community in our local area that was identified as red on the weekly DPH report, which signifies an incidence rate or a rate of new infections above a threshold of 8 per 100,000. And South Hadley is indeed a small community, so every single infection matters, and we look at that type of incidence rate. But when it was traced back to the origin of that incident, it was found that there were as many as possibly 18 infections traced to a single indoor gathering amongst young people between the ages of 18 and 21. And that shows why we must continue to press on towards zero. Because it only takes one person, it only takes one asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic person who could be infectious to be able to transmit this virus in a setting that's indoor, without masks, and without proper distancing. So that dozens more, or potentially even hundreds, could potentially be infected. So I urge you all, as we have been, to remain vigilant during these times, especially as we approach the fall and winter, where we know respiratory illnesses will increase, including influenza. On the testing front, we've seen the numbers of molecular tests go up over the past 2 weeks on a daily basis, which is a good thing, that there's more tests being done. And last week, the Department of Public Health did offer some additional guidelines for surveillance testing of other types of facilities and programs, including congregate care programs, which includes group homes, residential behavioral health treatment, certain types of shelters, and residential schools. This is important, as it seems that the surveillance testing that's been done amongst staff and residents of skilled nursing and long-term care facilities, as well as the safety protocols that have been put in place, have lessened the overall impact on those facilities and residents over the past few months. We're now the Department of Public Health is taking additional steps to ensure that we minimize any potential outbreaks that could occur in other congregate care settings. What it also means is more testing, which is, as mentioned, putting a strain on some of the existing resources locally, statewide, and nationally. At Mercy, we continue to perform between 300 and 400 tests per day, and we're able to perform those tests so that results do come back within 8 to 24 hours. We continue to test all patients coming to the hospital, all those before procedures, all colleagues or patients with any risk of exposure or symptoms, as well as many regional nursing homes and other offices and providers. At this point in the pandemic, I would say that we're quite proud and able to continue to do that testing at Mercy Medical Center. But we also recognize that that capacity is not enough for the entire community. And we do encourage additional others to be able to continue to test and develop new mechanisms and platforms. With schools beginning to start, we know that some of the reference labs are reporting turnaround times of 3 to 7 days, and the demand for testing is only going to increase. So it's an area that must remain one of focus. And in regards to treatment, the FDA did announce the emergency use authorization of convalescent plasma for the treatment of hospitalized patients yesterday. And I would concur with what Dr. Kerouac mentioned in regards to it. And just to clarify, the emergency use authorization refers to the ability for the FDA to allow unapproved medical products or therapies to be used in an emergency setting for a serious condition when there are no other adequate or approved alternatives. It does not mean that it is approved based on the typical rigor of studies that would be done, including randomized controlled trials, when a new therapy or medication is brought to market. I do want to mention that there have been many products and some medications that have been granted the EUA, the Emergency Use Authorization, since the beginning of this pandemic. Many of the tests that we use for diagnosis of COVID, but also some medications. Back in March, hydroxychloroquine was granted EUA, and then subsequently it was rescinded or revoked in June. And right now, remdesivir is also available through an EUA, and it also has some conflicting results. The data that was used largely to lead towards this authorization for the use of convalescent plasma was based on an observational study done by the Mayo Clinic of about 35,000 patients that did show some reduction in mortality if the plasma was given early in the disease, as well as plasma with higher levels of circulating antibodies. And that followed some data that showed that there was promising in terms of its safety. Mercy Medical Center, as part of Trinity Health of New England, participated in one of the few FDA-approved clinical trials regarding convalescent plasma. And I would say that there are still outstanding questions and much to be learned about the value of this therapy over the long term. And so I would not rush to conclusions, would state that there still are some unknowns, and the studies that should lead towards additional review are ones that should be based on clinical trials and peer-reviewed, which was not the case in this most recent publication. All throughout this pandemic, what has gotten us this far in terms of success has been our focus, our passion, our commitment on safety, and also on science. This should be no different. We've made great strides on our journey, and we will continue to do so if we focus on adhering to those recommendations, expanding testing and tracing, and ensuring that we do the things that we know are working. Please remember that we will be here for you. At Mercy Medical Center, we have safe care for you, and I just remind all of us to wear a mask, to sanitize your hands, to practice physical distancing, to limit your travel, to be cautious about where you go and who you interact with, because these actions do work. And it only takes one. It only takes one. The actions of each one of us have the power to either propel us forward or inadvertently cause us to step back. Thank you for what you're doing to both protect the lives as well as the livelihoods of our community.
Thank you, Dr. Roos. So now I'll have Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos come up for any questions that the media might have. And again, very thankful to all the media outlets that are here to continue to get our message out. So any, Paul?
Is there a risk to patients from the convalescent plasma therapy? Is there a downside?
Sure. I mean, every medication or every treatment has a risk. I mean, you can have a reaction to the proteins in the plasma, and it can be, so that it can cause fevers and chills and organ damage, and so it's not a free lunch.
So it's just, you said you are using it though with select patients.
Correct. As the evidence emerges. The study that Dr. Roos alluded to from Mayo was an observational study, the so-called randomized controlled trials where they give the drug versus placebo have not shown strong effects. So I think the jury's still out, I would think.
Yeah, and I think the important message that we're looking to communicate is there are legitimate opportunities for patients to enroll in trials and to be part of receiving what's investigational therapies and medications, particularly in a time when we're dealing with something novel and new. But what we don't want the message to be is for an authorization of use to expand so far that that message becomes lost. And patients should understand that there are risks and potential benefits to what they're engaging in, and we expect that the providers and the scientific community to help best convey that.
I think some of the hype that was in the news over the weekend is definitely unjustified.
Is there a risk here though that now clinical trials are going to be changing. Patients are going to say, I don't want placebo, I want the real thing.
I think that's exactly right. And it's very unlikely, pardon me, that we're going to get any smarter about this until another randomized trial gets done, or until a better agent comes along, which I suspect will likely be next year, the so-called synthetic or monoclonal antibodies.
Go ahead, Paul.
Another area that the FDA is being urged to expedite, I read about home test kits. Do you know anything about these?
Yeah, so I'm not sure actually which
There's
ones they're
that-
referring to
Maybe
specifically.
the spit test, the
Yeah.
spit test from Yale.
Yeah. Sure.
Well, everybody's pushing them. I mean, there are people that there are commercial ventures behind them. Well, I think everyone would like more, but you'd like it to be accurate. I believe the most recent EUA from the FDA was on the Yale spit test that was, that's been tried in a couple of places. They showed an equivalency between the spit versus the swab. Spit into a tube, cap it, send it along, very much like, a number of other tests that are out there. I've not seen any of the scientific data in terms of the sensitivity and specificity, and certainly for use in a hospital, you want it to be highly sensitive and highly specific. On the other hand, if you were screening a whole bunch of people, let's say for the NBA or for, an entire school system, having an easy to perform, slightly less sensitive test might be a pretty good way to go. So I think they may find their role in this whole puzzle here.
Mike Mastrodelli, 2240. Matt, any other questions? Okay, question. Any other questions of Dr. Caraway, Dr. Roos? Okay, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
Doing
Thank
to
you
stay
both.
healthy,
Yeah.
you and your staffs and family. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Now I'm going to bring up the Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Helen Carlton-Harris. Again, has done yeoman work on this effort, and she will give her update. She's also a good juggler, too. She will give you some more specific updates and information on some subjects I touched on and some subjects she'll bring up. So without further ado, the Health and Human Services Commissioner of the City of Springfield, Helen Carlton-Harris.
Thank you, Mayor, and as always, I am appreciative of your leadership and your humility in providing that leadership.
Thank you.
This past week in the City of Springfield has brought many positive changes. Last Monday, I reported that from August 9th to August 16th, there were 53 positive cases. This week, from August 17th to August 23rd, I can tell you that there are 32 positive cases during that entire week. That is a decrease of 16 cases. So we are very pleased to report that we are on the right trajectory. Again, that does not mean that we're counting the probable cases. I want to make sure that you understand these are confirmed cases. Last week, I reported that over 300 individuals had been tested in the City of Springfield through the Stop the Spread campaign. That number is now over 500. The testing that was held this week at Kiley, there were 125 individuals tested. At the Raymond A. Jordan Center on Friday, we tested 116 individuals. The mayor has indicated that we will set up additional testing sites this week with Tapestry Health Systems. I really do want to take a moment just to thank Tapestry, as well as Bay State and Mercy for their vigilance around assuring that we had capacity to do testing. And so on August 26th, it will be SciTech. On August 28th, Elias Brookins. On September 2nd, Claudio Concepcion, Greenleaf, and on September 4th, Central High School. Those times will be from 3 to 6. That testing is being done by Tapestry. Please visit their website to make an appointment. They would like appointments, but they are taking walk-ins as well. We will be standing up 2 more testing sites with Tapestry on September the 9th and September the 11th. Those sites are to be determined. We are also working with Fallon to set up a single site that we think we're going to be stationary for more than 1 day. That information will be forthcoming. Right now, the city of Springfield is yellow. That's the first chart that you see right here. And so for those of you like me who are spatially challenged, this is Springfield right there. And so we are yellow, which means 4 to 8 cases per 100,000 residents. Last week, we were 4.2 cases per 100,000. This week, we are 4.5 cases per 100,000. So we have increased slightly. That is a 14-day rolling average, and it's potentially due to the increased testing that we're doing, but we have increased slightly. The State Department of Public Health is in the process of transferring their recording system to an Amazon web system. We'll get the same data. They're telling us that there will be more increased data. However, because of that, the system appeared to be down on Sunday. So while we had the local numbers, we were not able to have the statewide numbers for Sunday. It also could mean that potentially we may see a slight bump in the positivity rate for Saturday and Sunday if, in fact, all of the cases did not come through Maven. We do not believe that's the case, but we certainly will make sure that we are keeping an eye on those numbers. As the mayor indicated, our deaths increased by 1. We are sending our condolences out to all families of the 131 individuals who died from this terrible virus, and we want to make sure that you know we share in your pain as a city. The Springfield School Committee, under the leadership of Mayor Sarno and certainly working with the superintendent, we have worked collaboratively with Springfield Public Schools since the beginning of this pandemic. Their nurses helped us with contact tracing early on, and we contact traced together prior to the state setting up the contact tracing collaborative. Together, we contact traced over 700 individuals. I am appreciative of the work of the nurses in the Springfield Public School, as well as their nursing supervisor and the entire staff. Our relationship with Springfield Public Schools, as I indicated, goes back to March and contact tracing. We find ourselves working closely on a number of fronts. Springfield Public Schools and all schools in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have been given a mandate that they provide flu shots for all of the students by December. That's a very tall order. So we will be, and a tall order that I know we can meet, but we will be working closely with Springfield Public Schools, pediatricians, and we will put a team of individuals together. We have a meeting next week. I am very confident that we will come up with a process that enables us to get this job done. But again, it's another one of these situations where you're not expecting that you're going to receive a mandate or instruction, but it comes. And this team of Springfield Public Schools, the superintendent, school committee, and mayor respond extremely well. Again, on Saturday, August 22nd, I received a call from the superintendent, who always cares very deeply about his staff, the students, and the teachers, that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE, was instructing that teachers go back into the classroom to teach their classes remotely. I will let the superintendent expand on that. However, I think it's important to acknowledge what's already been said. We have worked together for months, putting plans together to make sure that we were having the best outcome for students and teachers. We presented before the Springfield Public School Committee. They agreed that remotely was what they voted to do. And we were going down that path when suddenly other instructions came that needed to be considered. Now, the CDC is recommending that we consider throughout all of our school districts in the Commonwealth and nation the ventilation upgrades or improvement that might be necessary. So we obtain consultants from a reputable organization to do an assessment of Springfield Public Schools, and we're doing that. And so we want to make sure that we do our risk assessment, that we do our surveillance, that we do our mitigation, and that is what we're working towards. And so it's important that we do not stop our process because it's good public health. It's what we need to do to keep everyone safe. So I am absolutely supportive of our moving forward with the plan that we have for the first quarter. Public health and the CDC recommends that we promote behaviors to reduce COVID-19. You've heard those over and over again. That we maintain a healthy environment in our buildings and amongst our staff. That we maintain healthy operations and that we're preparing for if someone gets sick. Now, we're talking specifically about our school buildings. And so those are the guidance that we are using, and that's the guidance that I believe is going to give us in this city positive outcomes. The superintendent, his staff, the mayor, the Department of Health and Human Services really will continue working together collaboratively and using science and using best information to create plans for the city of Springfield. It's important that I say, because I've heard many individuals who have called me to complain about some of the structures or strategies that we're putting in place. Be clear, nobody is trying to be punitive to anyone, business, any organization, any individuals. What we are trying to do is what the mayor has said consistently: get through this together. And how we get through this together, we need to live through this together. And so that's our goal. It is not to be punitive, it is not to hurt anybody, it's not to support our economic base, it is to say we want to get through this together. And so with colleges returning, again, there will be an influx of individuals who will be on our campuses, who will be a part of the fabric of the city of Springfield. We want to make sure that our college students are safe, as well as our residents. And so we are continuing to work with our colleges to develop memorandums of understanding so that we're clear about the process moving forward. And I thank our staff, the Department of Health and Human Services, for working with the colleges. This is really important. There will be, again, an influx of individuals from around perhaps the country, certainly around New England, who are going to converge in the city of Springfield, and we need to be prepared for that as well. So I want to thank Tapestry again, because I've been so appreciative and so impressed with their professionalism as they have moved forward working with us. I want to remind us that EEE is not gone away, and so it's important that if you are out from dusk to dawn, that you are covering up and using personal protective equipment. Flu season. Flu season is upon us. The Springfield Department of Health and Human Services will be giving flu shots, but I recommend that you do take a flu shot, particularly if you are 6 months to 4 years and over 50, have chronic diseases, underlying conditions. It's important to get a flu shot. So we will be working and partnering with AMR, who will be working with us to give flu shots to homebound individuals. We know this year many of our residents may not want to go out, particularly if you have been homebound or have mobile challenges. And so we will be offering flu shots through AMR that will go to the homes of individuals. Our plastic bag ordinance we talked about last week, we are extending that until January the 1st, 2021. There is a lot going on. There is a lot of good news. And the good news is in our case county. The mayor talked about our good news, and so while he said the last 3 days we have had single digits, I will tell you that there was only one day last week that we had a double digits, which was Monday. So Monday was 12, Tuesday was 3, Wednesday was 2, Thursday was 7, Friday 4, Saturday 1, and Sunday 3. So if I could give let me give a virtual applause to our residents. Thank you very much for what you're doing. And thank you to the best cabinet team in the history of the world that I get an opportunity to work with every day. So thank you to my team members and certainly the leadership of the mayor. We thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Another nice outfit there, Helen.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go into our public safety component, and I will start off with the Fire Commissioner of the City of Springfield, Bernard B.J. Calvi.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor. So as the mayor stated, we have one person out with COVID. This person was not in the firehouse at the time. They were picked up on due to our program of screening people coming back from vacations and hot spots. So we averted a problem by catching this before it got into the firehouse. We had a busy weekend. We had 3 pretty good fires over the weekend, one on Prince Street, which was an attic fire, one on the corner of Dickinson and Locust Street, the old Red Line Cafe, which was a 2-alarm fire. It was difficult conditions. It was very hot. The fire was deep-seated in the building, so it required a lot of overhaul. It took a while to get it put out. And then last night we had a fire due to a lightning strike on White Street, which caused significant damage to the building. There was no injuries at any of these fires. Everybody worked very hard to get them under control. The members of the department have been doing a great job during these difficult times, making sure the stations are clean, everybody's being protected and serving the city. I'd like to thank them for the job they're doing. I'd like a special thank you to the custodians who come in every day to keep the station sterilized so we can help protect us as we protect you. And that's all I have for this week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. Thank you, Commissioner Calvi. We'll now go to continue public safety with the Police Commissioner of the City of Springfield, Cheryl Clappery.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. We did have a very busy weekend this weekend. We put out several details in regards to a couple of issues that are really being nuisance issues for a lot of the citizens in Springfield. One is the dirt bikes and the illegal ATVs that are being ridden in packs. We put out our own detail with some of the enduro motorcycles and some cruisers, and Friday and Saturday we issued several criminal complaints. We towed several dirt bikes and several ATVs. One had a accident Friday night. An ATV rider crashed on Federal Street. He had injuries. They're non-life threatening. No helmet was worn, riding in the street, and is currently, I think, still in Bay State. The anti-drag racing detail faced hundreds of people trying to drag race in the city. Most of it was focused in the North End area. Over the weekend, we made 12 arrests. We had 5 motor vehicles towed. We towed 3 dirt bikes. We issued 8 ordinance violations, and we issued 41 civil motor vehicle citations. We also have 2 additional criminal complaints. So we're taking the drag racing, the ATVs, and the motorcycles seriously. We'll be out again this coming weekend. We'll focus in North End area, the parks we're trying to protect, and we'll also start with the Mill Street area. I guess they had some issues there also. It was very disheartening to hear this morning about the Beauregard-Scavina Memorial Park. As the mayor mentioned, there was tagging and some vandalism done. I'd like to thank Pat Sullivan and his crew getting out there as soon as you can, Pat, because as the families and as people start to come, that would be a tough thing to see. They worked really hard on that park, and it symbolized not only the memory of Mike Scavina and Alan Beauregard, but the memory of all officers who have given the ultimate sacrifice. So we would appreciate if the public has any information on who may have done that horrendous deed. They can call us. The DB is 787-6355. You can also give us an anonymous tip on the tip line. And if we can find that person, he will be prosecuted. It's a felony to defame monuments and memorials to those who have died. So we certainly look forward to prosecuting those people. I hope the courts help us out a little bit better and he doesn't get sent to art class or something similar. I hope there's a hefty penalty for this so that we can show other people that this will not be tolerated. So we'll be watching the parks also. We did have a domestic arrest in which one officer suffered a severe bruise. He is recovering. The assailant unfortunately went out a 3rd floor window, so he is suffering from some serious injuries. He is in the Bay State Medical Center as we speak, and there is a person of interest in the Walmart hugging incidents. The man who was unfortunately going to strangers and people and giving you a hug and then laughing and saying that I'm infecting you with COVID. Like it's a joke, and this is a very serious crime. Again, another felony that we are looking to solve. We did get some tips come in from the public because his picture's on several websites, so we will be looking to prosecute him. Again, a serious charge. One of his victims is receiving treatment for cancer, so not a funny situation, so we will be looking to prosecute him. And that's all. I had 0 out with COVID right now, if I didn't mention that. We're fortunate right now, 0 with COVID. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Clapperud. Another hot topic right now in a timely fashion is our schools. And Superintendent Warwick and his team have worked very, very hard, not only educational front, but working with Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris on the public health aspect, and with Pat Sullivan, whole team on the facilities of this, because again, like you, we want to get our students and our teachers back in the classroom to get that one-on-one type aspects and that socialization, but we're not going to do it until we base it on public health, medical, and the sciences. And knock on wood, the route that we're going is paying dividends right now, but we have to be ever vigilant. So Superintendent Warwick is going to come up. He has plenty of stuff to update you on and the reasonings of why we continue to move forward. But we've done a lot of planning and working with the school committee also. So without further ado, the Superintendent of Springfield Public Schools, Dan Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. I have a few updates today. A piece of really good news. We've continued with our meals program since schools were shut down on March 12th, and we have now served 2,419,080 meals to families across the city from our 17 sites, and the program's been extremely effective. Just this weekend alone, we distributed 87,022 meals. So it's just been a tremendous program. We had a waiver from USDA to execute this program. As you know, usually meals are distributed individually to students with their IDs in schools, and we needed a waiver to execute this program. We needed to continue that waiver to continue in September, now that we're starting remotely. And we did get through, we were nervous about it, but we did get that waiver so we can continue. So for the public, we're going to continue with our meals program that's been so effective in all 17 sites during the period of remote learning and for the next few weeks. One thing that might get changed, and we're hoping to get a waiver on this too, is we're going to need a waiver to distribute for the weekend. So we're not sure how that piece is going to go, but we'll let you know as soon as we do. But for now, we're doing them for the weekends too. It's Monday to Friday, and we're going to continue that. And again, it's been just a tremendous success, and just, I think, help families through this tragic situation. Our staff, considerable staff, started PD this week. So we started PD, again, following our plan, which is delivering PD remotely for our staff, working collaboratively with staff so that we're delivering the PD. Staff are working from their homes. That was our plan all along, and that's what school committee voted on. After working very, very closely with Commissioner Helen, Carlton-Harris, Pat Sullivan, and the mayor's team, we took a good look at what we should do for the city of Springfield. We were told that the school committee had the authority, and we went to the school committee with our plan. The school committee unanimously approved our plan, so we're moving forward with that plan to deliver our PD remotely. So this week, our staff is going to be engaged in PD. The next 2 weeks, our staff is going to be engaged in professional collaboration and planning, the extra 10 days that the commissioner gave us to put a plan in place to deliver. So for those next 2 weeks, again, staff are going to be working from home, working together to remotely to plan and execute our remote plan. That'll start September 15th. So again, a great deal of work is going to be done. One thing families can expect is that the teachers from every school are going to reach out to the families and talk to each family about the expectations for our remote learning plan and what they can expect for the students. Again, our remote plan is a robust plan. It's a full day of instruction and student work equal to the present school day that we left with, and is going to, again, consist of a lot of work between staff working directly with families. So they're going to expect that conversation within the next 2 weeks. That's part of the plan, so that we can execute this remote plan for the first quarter. As our health commissioner suggested, that we worked with Pat Sullivan, and we determined, given the age of some of our HVAC systems, it was wise to take a good look, and we hired a specialist to come in, an industrial hygienist, to take a look at those systems. We're going to see what the results of that are, and then make a determination what we do second quarter and beyond for our students. As educators, we all want to get our kids back in school, but we wanted to make sure that our students were safe and our staff was safe, and we feel we can execute a strong remote plan for this first quarter while we're taking a look at that data. As the mayor said earlier, and Helen so capably said, that we'll look at the health and science, We'll look at the data from our buildings, and we'll see what's going on relative to the infection rates, and we'll make a decision what's best for Springfield as we move forward. We're very confident in what we've done. There's been a lot of new updates, and we're working very closely with our health commissioner on the flu shots. Like the health commissioner, I think the flu shot piece is a good idea. We have a mechanism in place. We'll work with our health department to implement that program, but we've been hit hard by the flu the last several years, and I think this flu shot program will be a big help. We had a little snafu opening up our PD today with some issues with Zoom, but we worked through those issues and got everyone going, and we're off to a very, very good start. One thing, again, I want to thank the mayor for is his support of the school system. We call him the education mayor. I know everyone else calls him the people's mayor. But he stepped up, this summer and taken a look at the fact that we don't have a set budget yet from the state, and helped us purchase the PPE to open, gave us millions to provide laptops for every student so we could refresh that order, and now has stepped up and said, go ahead with the iPads for preschool. So offering iPads to our preschool program is going to be of great help as we start the year remotely. So again, thank you, Mayor, and just so appreciative, and Helen said it, it's a great team here in the city of Springfield, and I'm confident that our team and our school committee are going to do the right thing for our students and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. Thank you, Superintendent Warwick. And again, you have seen other areas across the country, specifically with colleges, but we have seen other places opening up schools and high schools where they've had to shut down. So our goal is the same as yours. We want our kids, our students, and teachers, staff, administration back one-on-one and socialization and that TLC as soon as possible, but we're going to make sure we do it based on public health, sciences, and the medical aspect. So we have plans in place. This is plan one, and then we're going to continue to transition an industrial hygienist, Bob Kirshner, who was very helpful to myself and Helen and Pat Sullivan and Tim Sheehan when we put the state-of-the-art homeless triage tenting medical facility there, which paid dividends. We did it ahead of the curve and ahead of the state. So that's what we're doing. And Superintendent Warwick indicated this is a structure remote opening. Things are going to be monitored. There's a grading system, there's a attendance system, and there's monitoring with our students, monitoring with our teachers. So we can make sure our kids continue to move forward. With that, let me turn it over to Director Pat Sullivan. Again, does a great job with parks and facilities, and he'll give an update and maybe piggyback at some other information. Director Pat Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Mayor indicated, we started early voting this week, and we've been working with the Elections Office, and we want to give everyone the peace of mind that we will have a staff person that will have the electrostatic cleaning guns at each of the locations, City Hall and Greenleaf. So if someone leaves the voting booth, that will be basically sprayed down with that machine. And again, trying to keep our numbers low as this graph indicates. We continue with the storm cleanup this week. It should be completed by the end of the week. What we're working on, we're completing parks and school grounds. And this storm developed a lot of hanger trees, especially along the Roosevelt Avenue area. So they're going to be taking care of those, which could cause a danger if we didn't do it. But this storm was about $200,000. Usually when we have storms like this, they're $30,000 to $40,000, but it just shows you how widespread it was across the city. We're completing the building reviews, working with the school superintendent and Helen Carlton-Harris. So we hope to have that report generated in the next 3 weeks to start reviewing that information. So they're going through the buildings. It's a team of 5. There's 4 mechanical engineers, and they are taking the information to develop the air exchange rates for each of our buildings. Sierra Arena is scheduled to open for September 18th. That will be for practices and drills only. There will be no games at this time at Sierra Arena. And then to Commissioner Clapprood and to the families of the Beauregard and Scavina. We felt terrible when that happened. We have cleaned it up this morning. And just a warning, there's cameras near that area, so we're hopeful that we pick something up. So we will be working with the police department and reviewing that footage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat, for your continued efforts. And now the Department of Public Works Director Chris Signoli, he and his team, since day one, continue to be out there to do the street activities and trash being picked up, recycling, bulk yard waste. Construction continues to go on, sidewalk work, and I'll tell you, I was in Six Corners Saturday, and that roundabout is looking fantastic, and the Ruth Elizabeth Park by across from Brookings, Pat and Chris, is looking, the traffic reconfiguration, Central Street and New is looking fantastic. Without further ado, the Director of the Department of Public Works, Chris Signoli.
Thank you very much, Mayor. With regard to DPW, we currently have 2 employees out due to COVID. And as the mayor mentioned, we are dealing with a significant amount of yard waste following the tropical storm from a couple weeks ago. Our department's been working with Pat's department in forestry on removal of stumps, fixing of sidewalks. So if there are those issues, please make sure you get them into 311 so we can make sure we have them in our database. As the mayor mentioned, Six Corners project, the final paving for that project will be this week. So in the near future, we will be, I'm sure, holding an event out there, having a grand opening of the roundabout. Just down the street, Central Street has started significant work as well. Last week, or excuse me, the week before, we were notified by MEMA and FEMA that the city's been awarded a grant for over $500,000 to repair some drainage lines in South Branch Parkway. Which as soon as we can get that money in place, we will be able to start the design work on that. It's a significant structure in that area. We also, as the mayor mentioned, the tunnel in the north end, the tunnel underneath the railroad tracks has been completed. So now the approach work will start on that, and at the same time, we're going to be doing design repairs on the tunnel at the Harina School underneath Bernie Ave. So really making a lot of headway with regard to construction projects throughout the city. And I believe that is it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Thank you again, especially for the tunnel, safe tunnel passage down underneath the tracks. You were our point person on that, and we're very steadfast to get that done for the neighborhood. I appreciate that. Again, I always say Springfield's in the business of doing business, and before I bring up Director Tim Sheehan, Chief Development Officer Tim Sheehan, we're doing a balancing act here, and in order to obtain public confidence, consumer confidence, we have to tame, and we will defeat this COVID-19. As Commissioner Helen Carlton-Harris has indicated, that is #1 priority. We are trying to run on parallel tracks to keep our economy going the best we can. But if you don't tame this thing and you don't defeat this thing, that public and consumer confidence is not going to be there to venture back out into businesses, the schools, the neighborhoods, parks. So it's a delicate situation that we're dealing with. But on the business front, I really want to commend Director Sheehan and his team. Between HUD and CDBG, a couple million to help out residents for mortgages and utility bills and rents, and I think now we're probably with the new 1.3, Timmy will give you a little more update on that. Overall, about 5 million total, over 3 million going to all our small businesses, and these are grants. And very proud of the diversity of these grants being awarded throughout the city, and many minority, whether women, minority, or veteran-owned businesses on it. As long as they follow that criteria from HUD and CDBG, we're going to help you out. Without further ado, the Chief Development Officer of the City of Springfield, Tim Sheehan.
Thanks, Mayor. As the mayor indicated, we have gotten approval of the reprogramming of approximately $1.3 million to go into programming to assist small businesses that have been negatively impacted by COVID. A large portion of that money we will assign to Common Capital, and we're in the midst of developing programming surrounding how exactly that money is going to be dispersed. But again, our priorities remain with minority and women-owned businesses that have under $500,000 in gross revenue and are located and serve low to moderate income neighborhoods. That has been our priority going through all of the funding that we've advanced to businesses, because the minority business owners have disproportionately been impacted, and so many of those businesses are essential to the quality of life that is within our neighborhoods. So stay tuned. We should be announcing in the week or so the program with Common Capital. And again, if there's a business out there that has a need, please feel free to contact the Office of Economic Development. Our staff is available. We can provide technical assistance to you in terms of programming that's out there. And again, we want to have as open communication with the small businesses in Springfield as possible. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Director Sheehan. Attorney Bill Mahoney, my HR Labor Director. Again, there was status quo update, but travel restrictions occur. The same thing with the financial. We gave you the update from CAFO, TJ Plant, and legal with the law department. So with that, I will now open it up to the media for questions and or comments pertaining to my cabinet heads or myself. Paul? Dan, Superintendent Warren, please.
This communication came from the Department of Education on Friday. Do you see that, was that a recommendation or a directive as far as where the teachers should be teaching from?
Yeah, it was the expectation. They called it an expectation, which was guidance. It wasn't a mandate. We took a look at it. We put a lot of thought into our plan with teachers teaching remotely from home. And we feel, in collaboration with our health commissioner, Pat Sullivan with the buildings, the mayor and the school committee, we feel strongly that it is more prudent to have our teachers work from home. So we're going to treat that as guidance, but that's not a piece of guidance we're going to follow right now.
So you're going to teach from home through the first quarter, just exactly what the school committee voted on a few weeks ago.
Right, that's our plan. Yep.
Mike Mascadrelli, please. So a great question. You know, working very closely with Pat Sullivan, we took a look this summer at the DESE guidance on where they'd like buildings to be relative to those standards, and we decided to go with a higher standard with Pat and bringing in an industrial hygienist. So getting the results from that is very important to us before we bring a lot of people into our building. Some of our schools have over 200 employees. Bringing them all together right now in light of what happened in Arizona and some other places where it was just staff in there planning and they had a problem, that just wouldn't be the right decision for Springfield. We're in the yellow. We'd like to move carefully. And the safety of our students and staff is number one. We care about the education. We're going to provide a quality education, but we also have to ensure our parents that we care about the safety of our students, and we have to make that our priority number one. There's some staff working in the schools, sure. The principals are rotating in, the assistant principals. Custodians are still in cleaning and disinfecting. There are some staff in the schools. But to bring large groups into the schools right now, before we finish this building analysis, just didn't seem to be the right thing to do for Springfield, and we're not going to do that. Any other questions? And again, Superintendent, too, the school committee, this plan was put in effect and announced, well, Danny, maybe
A week and a half
10 days
ago, yeah.
Because people have to plan.
Right.
The families have to plan, the teachers have to plan, the children, so everybody made their plans on how we can make this thing work. So to get that 11th hour curveball, but again, we have a plan, we're going to stick to it, and I think by sticking to it, hopefully in the near future, we'll all be back on health, public health, medical, and sciences. Any other questions at all? Superintendent?
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. If no other questions, again, I want to, yeah, go ahead, yeah. Sure, no, go ahead, 22.
I'd just like to talk again a little bit about the vandalism.
Yeah.
There's been other incidents of vandalism, but this is, I think this is the first one at a, at a memorial,
Yeah.
in the city.
And I'm going to bring up Commissioner Clapper, too. Yeah, it hits home. I mean, we had the Italian-American War Veterans monument that was defaced, and Pat Sullivan and crew, I appreciate, took care of that. And we had the Black Vietnam Veterans Monument a couple of years ago that was defaced, actually just before we're scheduled to have an event. And Pat, I thank you, and we were able to get that done. And here, these things happening anytime are bad and disheartening and disrespectful. But we're at such a, I look at Helen's, we're at such a critical juncture right now. We're all trying to work together in unity to bring everyone together, to better understand each and every one of us, mutual respect, and we're making headway. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we're making headway. And to have this happen, these are two individuals who made the ultimate sacrifice. Their family members are very distraught, but you could see in their comments that they hope and pray that these individuals or individual that did it realizes what they did. So it's just things like this that happen, no matter what side or viewpoint it's coming from, negative, and it looks to divide us. It looks to divide us, and that is not right, nor will it be tolerated on either side on it. So I don't think it's a representation of the good people of all creed colors and backgrounds here in the city of Springfield. But we will deal with it and unite and move forward. But let me turn it over to Commissioner Clapper. She's firsthand with this.
I would agree with the mayor in that I get out in the community a lot, and from what I'm hearing at community meetings and people I run into out there day in and day out, they appreciate what the women and men of the police department do for them. They understand we have a tough job, and we're going through tough times, and we understand that too. So we've been trying to make amends and build up that respect again, and build up that give and take that we have with the community. It's the only way we get things done. We can solve some crimes without any help from any witnesses or community partners, but they're few and far between. We can't be everywhere. We're stretched out, as we mentioned before. We're taking 300-400 calls a shift, so the women and men are going from call to call. So without the community letting us know what's going on and this is suspicious and this is happening, we would be hard-pressed to solve some of these issues. So being at that memorial and seeing the families that day and the hard work that retired Sergeant John Delaney put into it, the hard work that his committee put into it, how proud the Beauregard, Scavina, and Ambrose, Carla was there also, how proud they were of that field. I think having the personal touch, and I knew all three of them, that it hurts a little bit more. So again, I think it is few and far between, but I hope that we can prosecute this person or persons so that everyone can see that they are few and far between, and it's not a representation of the Springfield community as far as how they feel about the Springfield Police Department, and I'm sure in that. So let's get it cleaned up. And thanks again, Pat, for doing that, and let's move on, and let's hopefully catch who did that and prosecute them.
You know, just 3 things that we're already doing. One with Commissioner Helen, Carlton-Harris, with the Office of Racial Equity and these conversations. 2 things with Commissioner Clapprood and our Community Police Hearing Board. We're going to be going out there and having these community conversations. And the second thing, the third thing with Commissioner, bringing the highly respected retired Chief Justice of the Massachusetts State Supreme Court, Roderick Ireland, Judge Ireland, who's come in for me too. And I think this is the dialogue here. These types of events don't divide us, don't anger any type of fringe groups on either side. But it's just that when I got the call Sunday, it was disheartening, and we wanted to take care of the matter right away, and and we'll move forward. But that's all I'll say about that. Any other questions or comments, Paul?
Just a follow-up. There's a really anxious question as Pat has alluded to the possibility that there's video footage that might be helpful in this case.
It's possible, Paul. I mean, the schools have cameras, and obviously, we've been putting up more cameras as we go. We had that one incident at the 9/11 memorial, and now we have several cameras on that, so we'll add some cameras here, but there might be some existing footage from the school area. And as we ask for help from the public, you never know. If it happened late at night, there may be some Ring video or home videos somebody might be able to help us out with, who was out at that time of night and what are they up to. So hopefully we get some calls and we get some tips we can follow up on.
This is a new neighborhood park, and it's stimulating just exactly what we wanted. It's bringing families together of all backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, all creed, colors, and backgrounds. I've seen they're out there. That's exactly what Springfield is about. And I think that's important to be noted. Negativity seems to grab the headlines of the day, whether it deals with any one of us. But we'll deal with it. We'll move forward, and hopefully we can catch the culprit or culprits that did it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Again, I'm very deeply appreciative of the media's efforts to continue to get this information out, whether it's daily or, more importantly, each and every Monday. And I'm deeply appreciative of Dr. Kerouac and Dr. Roos being here every Monday to get their perspective as we partner with our hospital system. And I'm deeply appreciative of my cabinet heads and rank and file who are tested and true through a number of natural and man-made disasters. What we are doing is working. It is working. And again, our first priority is to be able to tame and defeat this COVID-19, which we will. By doing that, and we're trying to work on parallel tracks, but by doing that, you will get public confidence and consumer confidence and not have any false starts of taking one step forward and end up taking 2 steps back. So keep doing what you're doing. To the residents and business community, thank you. Your patience has been outstanding. I think you heard from Helen Calton-Harris, Dr. Kerouac, and Dr. Roos. Some of these smaller get-togethers, you have to be careful, and we're going to continue to monitor them. You could see across the country and across the state, some of these so-called smaller get-togethers end up being 200-300 people, and they become spreaders. So we have to be cognizant of that. We're going to continue our asymptomatic testing. I'm very appreciative of Tapestry and, again, Governor Baker on Stop the Spread. We'll continue our contact tracing. Early voting is going on, so please make sure you go out there and vote. Please fill out that census. If you don't count, and in turn, the city of Springfield won't count. And many of the programs we put forward, CDBG, HUD, other things we're doing, facilities management, we're doing with the schools, we're doing with the health department, that money comes from those entities. and we need to stay above that 150,000 population mark. We run 153 to 155. You count. You count more than you think. So I need you to fill out that basic information. So go out and have a great day and stay healthy. God bless. Thank you very much.